Jacob talks.
Finally I'm free. Finally I'm free. As I go out to sea, I can walk on water.
People ask me, what was my aha moment? What made me change my perspective? And it's when I saw this. So a black person in the United States during the Jim Crow era faced second-class citizenship, disenfranchisement, barriers to voting, barriers to education, barriers to employment, and barriers to housing. Then we had the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which stated we could no longer do any of this. We could no longer discriminate based on race. So in 2023, what is the only group of people that we can legally discriminate against? We can legally relegate to second-class citizenship, create barriers to voting, barriers to education, barriers to employment, barriers to housing. If you answered convicted felon, you are absolutely correct. In 2023, a convicted felon is the only group of people that we can legally do all this to. Now, do you believe it's a coincidence that 1 in 3 black males carry this label as convicted felon as opposed to 1 in 17 white males? If you answered yes to that question, let's take a look at what's happened since the dismantling of the Jim Crow laws. We've had a 700% increase in our prison population. We've gone from 300,000 inmates to as high as 2.3 million. Now, I do believe we're back down to about 1.8 million today. We had the law and order agenda, which was an increase in police spending and a decrease in school funding, which created the school to prison pipeline. We also had the war on drugs, which we now know was a war on people. We had the 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act, and we had the 1994 Crime Bill. Now, the 86 Anti-Drug Abuse Act differentiated between rock cocaine and powder cocaine, which we know predominantly impacted the black community. And the 94 Crime Bill created harsher sentences, lengthier sentences, and minimum mandatories. We also know that black people make up 53% of all exonerations, 69% of exonerations for drug crimes, and they're 7 times more likely to be wrongly convicted. So when I seen all of this, I realized that racism in this country never ended. We have a systemic issue.
Call halal Yahweh, Bashem El Shai, Bashem Rakaku Dash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who do rule well. Shalom to you of us who are hopeful. Shalom to the elect. Now, as I was watching this, this is one of the breakdowns that came to mind. Habakkuk, the second chapter. It's painstaking in Esau Edom's, speaking to the so-called white establishment and those world leaders who even today live high off the hog due to white supremacy, so you can understand. This second chapter of Habakkuk speaks to the details brought out in the opening clip, like the prison industrial complex, and moreover the so-called white man's enslaving of we so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians on an international scale, period. The subjugation of our land, speaking not only to Canada and the Americas, but the so-called land of Israel that Amalek and Ishmael are fighting over now, as well as the colonization of territories where we Salakia, where we Israelites were scattered, the raping and robbing of resources, and ultimately the overall destruction of the world as we know it. For instance, take a look at the Canadian flag, which is really just a corporate logo, by the way. Now, you may just see a maple leaf, the so-called symbol of peace, as if that makes any goddamn sense. But in any event, if you take a step back and look at it in its entirety, you'll see that it's 2 Edomites, the so-called French and British kings of the 1800s, to be exact, bickering over what the maple leaf supposedly represents to those that live under the corporate logo and the many who pledge allegiance to it. The indigenous land, we Northern Kingdom Israelites who ended up in the region you know as Canada by way of fleeing the Assyrian captivity of the 700s. First Chronicles, the 5th chapter, 2nd Kings, the 15th chapter, 2nd Kings, the 17th chapter, 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, 40 on down are the go-tos for you at home who want to do the research. Canada in the Hebrew really speaks to Canaan 4, and ergo is ultimately land promised to us by the Heavenly Father. Okay, the U.S. is not the only region guilty of ill-gotten gains by murder, robbery, and deceit. The quote-unquote cultural and, more importantly, literal genocide of Canada's state-sponsored residential school system, where some 200 plus bodies of our brother Gad's children were discovered, bears witness to that. In any event, Habakkuk 2 and 1 will sift through and focus on the main points that speak to the opening clip. Habakkuk 2 and 1, and it says this: I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower. Set me up on a tower is a metaphor for the Bible in this truth. Okay, I will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. Reprove, speaking to a good precept, is Matthew 10 and 19, for those of us who will become properties of the state, if you will, because of what we prophesy and teach, and essentially our faith and belief in Yahweh Yahweh Shai. We hopeful elect men patiently wait for the instruction from the Heavenly Father, what to say, measuring the times, of course. When we see it taking place, our duty is to report on it as it is commanded of us by the scriptures. Habakkuk 2 and 2, and Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. Meaning, make it easy to understand, break it down and make it easy to digest, so those who hear it, those who truly have ears to hear, may run. Meaning, be expedient in and convey the message, i.e., tell the vision. Habakkuk 2 and 3, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, meaning delay, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Meaning, before you know it, it will be upon us. Okay, this verse here is the reason why I started at 1, so I could get to this point here. How do we know we are at the end? Speaking to the appointed time, because of the prophecies coming to pass. The prophecies coming to pass signifies the times we are in. Okay, the whole world is waking up to this truth, some with the correct understanding, some with a zeal, but not in knowledge and understanding of this truth and the severity of what it is, or what is about to come to pass. Habakkuk 2 and 4, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him. The him is Esau, Edom, again the so-called white establishment, those who rule under the guise of democracy, really white supremacy, so you can understand. But the just shall live by his faith. The just are the hopeful elect. The just because we are justified by faith in Yahweh Yahweh Shai, and the belief he will deliver us when the time comes. And boy, is that time coming. Habakkuk 2 and 5, yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, speaking to Esau's philosophies and his New Age doctrine. The first example and best example is the idea that there is no God. I'm God, so follow me. Yeah, right. He is a proud man, speaking to Esau's pride in himself, which the Most High hates. Proverbs 8 and 13. The fear of Yahweh is to hate evil, pride and arrogancy, and the evil way in the froward mouth do I hate. Habakkuk 2 and 5, continuing on. Neither keepeth at home, speaking to Esau's act of subduing and conquering lands for the wealth, for their riches, for natural resources that do not belong to him, through violence and, again, the aforementioned deceit. Who enlargeth his desire as hell and is as death, i.e. the atrocities and the treachery that he distributes throughout the earth that are responsible for the hellish conditions that we currently live under. Everything this colonizer touches, he pollutes and destroys, and cannot be satisfied. His hunger and lust fueled by his greed, insatiable, meaning it cannot be quenched. The more he has, the more he wants. Okay, and that's time and time again proven to be true concerning the integrity and the continents of Esau Edom. But gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people, like the agendas he puts into play, like the Build Back Better initiative, where you'll own nothing and be happy, in his desire to control and rule the whole earth by microchipping everybody under, I said it, microchipping everybody under the fulfillment of a one world dictatorship and a new world order. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him? And an example of that is the so-called Middle Easterners who call America and its government administration the Great Satan. Okay, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Meaning all the nations on earth will speak speak out against the abominations that Esau Edom has committed, and against all the wicked acts he's done, even his own, like the gentleman here in the opening clip, presumably an Edomite, but he could very well be an Israelite. We don't know. Doing as he's doing, telling whosoever's in the circumference of his voice of the crimes he's committed and the evils that he continues to wreak on humanity, like his brand of racism, where he socially and economically marginalizes and disenfranchises we Israelites. Not because he hates the color of our skin, but because he knows the pigmentation of our skin might very well mean we are of the heritage of the prophets and of the lineage of promise, the same children of the Most High Power they call God, that has promised he will recompense Esau, Edom, and all the other nations to boot for the injustices we've suffered under their rule. And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay, I gotta get that point, because it speaks to his debt currency, his system of usury. The Federal Reserve System is another example. His CBDC and his central banking system, the CBDC, speaking to the digital system that he's hoping to implement. His private profiteers, his economic and political system called capitalism, his Wall Street stock market. Where do you think stocks and bonds being sold on Wall Street comes from? Comes from the transatlantic slave trade. The stocks were we Hebrew Israelites. The bonds going back to bondage, meaning our captivity. Bondsmen and bondswomen held subject to forced free labor was what made America the economic superpower it is, or at least what it used to be. Habakkuk 2 and 7. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? Meaning the whole world is waking up to the undeniable truth. This man of privilege that has been esteemed and idolized by every nation is nothing more than a chief demon, a charlatan, and a devil. Okay? No coincidence the whole world is on Esau's ass as we speak. There isn't anybody who isn't sick and tired of so-called white privilege and the muck it's made of the earth. The scriptures say the whole world shall rise up against Esau as a nation and punish him as a people. Everything he's done, he'll receive double. Okay? Let's go to Isaiah 42 and 22 to close out. I didn't intend for this to be long. Isaiah 42 and 22, because it says this, but this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith, restore. And ain't that the truth? The idea of the whole criminal justice system isn't to restore, never mind rehabilitate, nor is it to correct any rights wronged. Okay, the prison industrial complex is a multi-million-dollar entity fueled by racism to frustrate the advancement of so-called peoples of color. Okay, simultaneously, what it does is empowers the powers that shouldn't be. In any event, this is how you know we so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Indians are the true Hebrew Israelites. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. And how long have we so-called people of color being persecuted? Our women, our children, even our men being raped, our people robbed of what's rightfully theirs. Till this day, we're still being robbed and murdered without impunity. Even deeper still, spoiled speaks to the taking of our national identity, the robbing of our name, the attempt to circumvent our power and the knowledge of our God, just so they can try to destroy us as a people. You thought the cultural genocide in the Canada's residential school system was bad? What about taking the very source of our identity, the Most High, who we praise, and without him we can do nothing? Okay, they have knowledge of this, which is why they did it. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. Hid in prison houses because that is exactly where so-called white supremacy wants and needs the true children of the Most High to be, tucked and hidden away where no one can see them, where no one can hear them to bear witness to this truth. Okay, Cell Block 74 is the last place you expect to look for the people that Yahweh has favored above every other so-called race and nation of people. Snared speaking to Esau's system on a hole. System is from the Latin meaning pit or hole, which is exactly where they put you when you don't play by the rules or play nice and injure state property, i.e. the other inmates. Why? Not because they have human rights, God forbid, because they're a commodity, okay? The judicial system was meant to oppress we so-called blacks and browns, and the criminal justice system, and I know this firsthand from being a junior lawyer, the criminal justice system is really justice designed for the criminals, Esau, Edom, the ones really who have been caught red-handed. This is how you know who the Israelites are, used for free labor, charged and convicted for crimes that we have never committed.